take one thing, just one thing away from my channel in learning French, it is this video. Here are some super top tips for understanding French conjugation. So let me take you on a journey through 3 French verbs, and you'll see how easy it is to learn French. Now, because it is a very special video, we have decided to give you the full support guide of this very lesson for free. You can find it here or in the description below. Okay, have a look at marcher. Marcher means to walk, and I'm going to conjugate it in 6 different tenses. Présent, Passé composé, Subjonctif, Imparfait, Conditionnel, et Futur. And what I've done, I've color-coded them. And the reason why I've done that is to show you that sometimes the endings of one tense is the same as the endings of another tense. But what is the difference then if both endings are the same? Well, I'm going to show you what happens. Listen very carefully. Now, look at this very carefully. Here we go. Marcher is a really common ER verb. It's highly regular. Not irregular, very regular. Now, marcher, the infinitive is to walk, okay? To walk. And in French, it is marcher with ER at the end. And that's how we tell that the verb is in its infinitive form. And it's very important. Please note that to walk is an infinitive of a verb that has not yet been touched or conjugated. I am giving you as well, for this verb, or the verbs we are about to have a look at, the participe présent, which is the present participle. So, in effect, we want to say while walking, ing, walking. So this is the ing form of that verb we want to conjugate. And another part of the verb I want to give you is the past participle, the participe passé. And here it's walked. For example, the past participle, you will see it in the passé composé or a past tense in English. I have walked. That bit, walked, is the past participle. So let's have a look at marcher in the present tense. I'm going to keep my pink ending for the present tense of marcher. ER verb, okay? Because the endings will be different for second group verbs, for the second or the third group verbs, okay? So for the present tense, we want to say I walk or I'm walking. Je marche, tu marches. Il marche, elle marche, on marche, nous marchons, ONS, vous marchez, IZ, and then to say they are walking, ils marchent, INT, elle marche, INT. Okay? So, present tense, easy enough in ER verb. These are the endings. So what do? You drop the ER of the infinitive form and you add those endings. And it works for all the ER verbs, except for one, which is highly irregular verb. Don't ask me why. It's aller, to go. A-L-L-E-R is a third group, not a first group. That's the only one in ER. Okay? So we've got the ending of the present tense, okay? What we want now is to be able to say, I have walked or I walked. In order to do that, we need a verb to have in the present tense because passé composé is composed of the auxiliary, and B, we need the past participle of the verb we want to conjugate. So what happens here, all we need to do is add, have you look at this past participle. For marcher, we drop ER and we add an accent at the E. Okay, so it will become j'ai marché. I have walked. Tu as marché. Il a marché. And so on. Okay? nous avons marché, vous avez marché, ils ont marché, elles ont marché. Now, the reason why I've highlighted the to have in the present tense in red is really, really relevant. In a minute, you're going to understand why. Do you remember this lesson is all about showing you some patterns and making it easier for you to conjugate, okay? J'ai, tu as, il a, elle a, on a, nous avons, vous avez, ils ont, elles ont. Everything is really relevant here for another tense a bit later. Now, have you noticed that I have used the nous form and the il form in different colors? So, I am going to highlight for you this one. Nous marchons. Okay, now this is in orange. And the reason why it's in orange, it's because it is often used as a stem for other tenses. Imparfait, for example. Imparfait. So I'm going to use the stem of nous in the present tense in order to conjugate the imperfect tense. So I'm using the same stem here, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the special imperfect endings, which are je marchais, I used to walk, or I was walking. Do you know how to say you used to walk or you were walking? Tu marchais. Il marchait. Elle marchait. On marchait. And then the imperfect is a very interesting tense. It's not marchons, because that's the present tense. Nous marchons is we are walking. But we want to say we were walking. All you need to do is add an I. Nous marchions. We were walking, we used to walk. So you do the same for vous. Vous marchiez. Okay? I-E-Z. And then the ending for il and elle in the imperfect tense is marchait. Marchait. So in effect, this sound, this sound, this sound, this sound, and these sounds are exactly the same. It's a, regardless whether it ends with a S or a T or ENT. And here we have conjugated the verb marcher in its imperfect form, okay, or past tense, imparfait. And what we've done, we have used the nous form, and I'm going to drag it here. So the nous form, we have used it for the stem of the imparfait. Can you see the correlation here? Now, what other color scheme do you see? I see green as well. Well, why am I using green of il? Il marche. This is going to be the beginning, the stem for all the subjunctive présent that you are going to conjugate. Okay, so I use marcher, okay, marcher, and I'm going to use pink again to give me an ending here. So, subjunctive is a funny tense. I cover it in great length in my course, especially in lesson 30. And by the way, all the tenses that I'm currently teaching you here are covered in so much more details in these lessons in the complete French course at Learn French with Alexa. Now, que je. And let's have a look at the ending. So I'm taking the stem of il in order to conjugate in the subjunctive. Can you see the color code here? It will become much clearer when you conjugate in the second and third group. Que je marche. Que tu marches. Qu'il marche. Qu'elle marche. Qu'on marche. Que nous marchions. And here suddenly the ending is the same as the imperfect. Que vous marchiez. Qu'il marche. And qu'elle marche. So let's have a look at it again. Can you see what's happening here? Okay. And then we've got the conditional. So we want to say, I would walk. Okay. And the conditional is a very interesting part, okay, of the conjugation process. Marcher is the infinitive. And this is exactly, and I'm going to use blue here. Take the whole verb as it is, as a stem. It's all about understanding which stem to use for what tense, okay? In that case, for the conditional, you use the whole stem, the whole of the infinitive verb, which is marcher. I've done it here, look, for you. Marcher. So that's your stem, okay? And then what follows is very interesting. You're using the same endings as the imperfect. Tu marcherais. You would walk. Il marcherait. Elle marcherait. On marcherait. Nous marcherions. Can you see that? Vous marcheriez. And il and elle marcheraient. So, have a look at the conditional and the imperfect. What's the difference? Yes, well, the difference is the stem only, not the endings, just the stem. That's right. And how did I say we were producing the imperfect? By using the stem of the new form in the present tense. I go back to my thing. Here we go. Nous marchons. That is the stem and the beginning of your tense for the imparfait. Okay? And how do we form the conditional? By keeping the whole verb as it is and adding that. Now, do you remember when I said to you that knowing your verb in the auxiliary verb avoir in the present tense was very important? Well, it is important for the future tense. How? You're going to say, "But how, Alexa? Why? How?" Well, listen really carefully. And this is a top tip, which I think will save your, life when it comes to understanding French conjugation. Here, have a look at the passé composé. But have a look at to have. J'ai, I have. Tu as, you have. Il a, elle a, on a. Nous avons, we have. Vous avez, you have. Ils ont, elles ont. Now this, I want you to concentrate on this very, 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 very carefully, okay? Because these are the endings that you're going to put in your future tense. The future tense, what is the stem? The stem is the same as the conditional, but it's not the same ending. The ending of the future is the j'ai, tu as, il a, elle a, on a, nous avons, ONS, vous avez, IZ, ils ont, elles ont. And suddenly, what we've done, we've conjugated the future, okay, the verb marcher in the future tense. Je marcherai, I will walk. Tu marcheras, you will walk. Il marchera, he, she, one will walk. Nous marcherons, vous marcherez, ils marcheront, elles marcheront. And you will notice something as well. Have a look at conditional nous form and vous. Nous marcherions, and the future, nous marcherons. One letter, I, makes a lot of difference. One is I would, you would walk, and the other one is you will walk. Where it's very obvious in English, because of the modal verbs, it's not that obvious in French. We have one letter that differentiates two tenses. So, to recap, and we're going to see the difference in the second and third group. To recap, in order to form the subjunctive, use the stem of the il form in the present tense. So, il marche. Okay, so that stem. In order to form the imperfect, use the stem of the nous form of the present tense. Marche is the same, okay, as subjunctive for er verb, okay? And then in order to form the conditional and the future, use exactly the infinitive verb, the whole verb, like so. As for the endings for the imperfect are the same, and I'm going to show you, as the endings for the conditional. And the endings of the future tense are the same of the present tense of avoir, which is to have. Oh, and another thing is, when you create the present participle of a verb, you need to use, and I'm going to use orange here, the stem of the nous form, and I'm going to drag it here, for the present participle. And it might not be obvious on the ER verb, but it will be in the IR verb that we are about to see now, okay? So, here we go. What does an IR verb look like using all these patterns? Let's have a look at finir. So IR verbs belong to the second group, okay? And they follow a really, really specific pattern. In a way, they are quite regular. Now, bear in mind that we have IR verbs that belong to the third group. That's another story completely. So I know you're going to say, oh gosh, you're teaching me something and then you're giving me an exception. Yeah, this is French for you. Learn 10 basic IR regular verb, and then you'll be fine conjugating the second group verbs in these 6 different tenses. So let's have a look at the ending of the IR verb in the present tense. So for je, it's S. Je finis, tu finis, il finit, sorry, it's a T. Elle finit, on finit. And then this is where it's very interesting. The nous form for IR verb is finissons. Okay? Finissons. For example, I want to use obéir, to obey. Nous obéissons. Okay, there will be a isson sound to the present tense of that IR verb. So, vous finissez, and then ils finissent, et elles finissent. Okay, and again, I've used the same color code. Orange for nous, green for il. And you will see that we have here for green, and I'm going to highlight green, finir, okay, the same stem, like I said, for the subjunctive. Subjunctive, use the il form present tense for the stem of your subjunctive and add those special endings, okay? Let's put that aside just for a minute. Finir, the infinitive is to finish, okay? To finish. I'm going to write it to finish, okay? The present participle of that verb is, and I said to you, do you remember what I said? Use the nous form in order to have the present participle stem here. Okay, so it means finishing, ing. And the past participle of any IR verb will be fini, so you remove the R. So, for example, obéir will be obéi, remove the R. Okay? So, agir, remove the R. Okay? So, the past participle is finished. I have finished. All right? So, let's have a look at the subjunctive tense of an IR verb. So, like I say, you start with the same for il. You start the subjunctive with that stem, okay? So the stem for il présent, okay, is your beginning for the subjunctive. So, que je finisse, okay? Que je finisse, que tu finisses. So let's have a look at that. That looks like the ending of the present tense of an ER verb. So, que tu finisse, qu'il finisse, qu'elle finisse, qu'on finisse. And then what's funny is that when you use nous form for the subjunctive, it's the IONS, the same as the imparfait and the conditional tense. Que nous finissions, que vous finissiez, okay? And then we've got qu'il finisse and qu'elle finisse. Now remember, what you have to remember is that the beginning of your subjunctive is the stem of il in the present tense of the IR verb, okay? So of course, if you're using obéir, c'est que j'obéisse, que tu obéisses, not finir, okay? Now, do you remember what I said about the imparfait, the conditional, and futur? Okay, well, there it becomes really, really obvious that you need the stem in order for it to look different for the imparfait, for the conditional, and the future tense. So I've conjugated the imparfait for you. Now, I am using, and I'm using orange here, finisse, and I'm going to drag it all the way here to show you that the beginning is exactly the same. And I should do the same for all the way for the subjunctive here. Can you see that? Okay, so imparfait. We want to say, I used to finish, I was finishing. Here we go. Stem, finisse, and the endings are these ones. AIS, je finissais, tu finissais, il finissait, elle finissait, on finissait, nous finissions, vous finissiez, il finissait, elle finissait. Okay? So I used to finish, we were finishing, she was finishing, and so on. This is what we are saying. Okay. Now, when it comes to the conditional, we are not using the same stem as the imperfect because it will make it the imperfect. Okay, we've got to make this difference. We want to say, I would finish. And in order to do that, we are using the whole verb as it is, and we are using it as a stem. And then we are adding the imperfect endings. Okay, so, je finirai, tu finirais, il finirait, elle finirait, on finirait, nous finirions, vous finiriez, il finirait, elle finirait. So I would finish, you would finish, he would finish, she would finish, and so on. Okay? And then when it comes to the future tense, do you remember what we did? We're using the same stem, which is the entire verb, okay? But then we are adding the verb avoir in the present tense, the endings of the verb avoir. J'ai, tu as, il a. So here we go. Je finirai. I will finish. Tu finiras. Il finira. Elle finira. On finira. Nous finirons. Vous finirez. Ils finiront. Elles finiront. How is that? Now, what I want to do now, okay, we're starting to understand there is a pattern and a correlation between the tenses here, okay? I know it sounds crazy when you start learning French conjugation, but trust me, there is a pattern. And we only covered 6 verbs here, 6 tenses, okay? Let's have a look at what happens when you conjugate a verb in these 6 tenses using a third group verb. I'm using boire as an example. You've got to understand that all these verbs are highly irregular. So what I would like you to do is maybe take 10 or 20 most common verbs in the third group and learn what their infinitives are, their present participle, and their participe passé or past participle. And that will help you start the stem for the conditional and the future, and also for the passé composé. Okay, so that's already half of the battle won somehow. So if I take boire as a verb, okay, boire is to drink. The infinitive is to drink, okay? We are very clear. The present participle is buvant, buvant, so drinking. Oh, sorry, I can't spell drinking, drinking, okay. And the way we created the present participle is by using the stem of the nous of the present tense of boire, which we are going to see in a minute. So, bu, like I have said it in the beginning on the group 1 and group 2, okay? Buvant, drinking. What is going to vary a lot is the past participle of these verbs. So for boire, it's bu, random. And this is drunk, okay? Drunk. I have drunk. Not I drank, I have drunk. That's the past participle. To make it easier, because it sounds very different, if you take the verb to eat, okay, and you put it in its past participle form, it becomes eaten. I have eaten, not ate, eaten. And that's what a past participle is, okay? So let's have a look at the present tense of boire. Now, what you have to understand, and I've done it here, this is the ending of boire, but it doesn't mean it's going to be the ending of pouvoir, for example, okay? Or prendre. Okay, these are different endings in the present tense. So, sometimes they end like this. S for je. S, T, T, T. O-N-S, E-Z, E-N-T, E-N-T. Okay, so je bois, I drink, or I'm drinking. Tu bois, il boit, elle boit, on boit. Nous buvons, vous buvez, ils boivent, elles boivent. Très bien, okay? Now remember what I've just said. Sometimes the endings will look like this. X, XT, O, E, and E, and ENT, okay? Or like this, depending on the verbs. For example, for pouvoir, to be able to. For prendre, okay, to take. And for mettre, that will be like that, to put, okay? So, passé composé, we know the past participle. So you put the to have auxiliary and you add a past participle. Bu, for example, j'ai bu. Tu as bu, il a bu, elle a bu, on a bu, nous avons bu, vous avez bu, ils ont bu, elles ont bu. So I have drunk, you have drunk, and so on. Remember that this ending is your ending for your future tense, which we can start with that if you wanted. Look at that. That's the ending. Okay? The future tense, let's start with that. You conjugate it using the stem of your verb. However, this time, different from the first and second group, you're going to take the whole verb, but you are going to get rid of the E of that verb. Okay? So, you would do the same, for example, for prendre ou mettre. But some highly irregular verb might not follow this pattern at all. So learn the most common ones, okay? So boire, drop the E, and here you've got the stem. The same stem will be for the conditional tense. Remember, I've just said that. So, je boirai, I will drink. Tu boiras, il boira, elle boira, on boira, nous boirons, vous boirez, ils boiront, elles boirent, ils boiront, and so on. I mean, once you get used to it, and I would advise you to take an ER verb, an IR verb, and the third group verb, and try to follow this very pattern and see whether something clicks, okay? So, we're going backwards now. I'm using the same stem as the future for my conditional. And remember the ending? They are exactly the same ending as the imperfect tense. So we want to say, I would drink. So, boire is your stem and the ending of the imperfect. Je boirais, tu boirais, il boirait, elle boirait, nous boirions, vous boiriez, il boirait, elle boirait. Okay? As for the imparfait, then the stem, and listen really carefully here. The stem is the new form here. Can you see that here? Can you see that? I'm going to drag this stem. And I'm going to put it here. Sorry, I was going too far. Here. Okay? There for the imparfait. And the same goes for the same stem for the present participle. Okay? So that's your stem, the beginning of the imperfect. Je buvais. I used to drink. I was drinking. Tu buvais. Il buvait. Elle buvait. On buvait. Nous buvions. Vous buviez. Il buvait. Elle buvait. Okay? So all you need to know is that the imperfect and the conditional share the same endings but not the same stem. Okay? And I know what you're thinking, but Alexa, you make it sound easy, but it's not. And I know it's not. Okay? But at least that's the beginning. Okay? So we've got that. So what happens when we conjugate in a subjunctive? I've covered the subjunctive in great length in my full course in lesson 30. And the course, which is called the Complete French course, which is followed by hundreds of thousands of people. Okay? So listen very carefully. How do you form the subjunctive? We know that we use the il form, stem, present tense, for je. But when it comes to the third group, the nous stem is used for nous and vous. Can you see that? The same way as we use the nous form for the imparfait and the nous form for the present participle. I'm listening to myself thinking, how? You know. But I hope it makes sense to you. Okay, I hope I'm delivering it as simplistic as I can, as simple as I can. So, subjunctive, que. And by the way, we always use the que in front because that's how it is in a sentence, using the subjunctive. Que je boive, que tu boives, que je parle, que je finisse, etc., etc. So, you conjugate like this. We know the stem. Que je boive, que tu boives, qu'il boive, qu'elle boive, qu'on boive, que nous buvions. Now remember the ending of nous and vous for subjunctive is the same as the imparfait, and it's the same as the conditional, okay? And the ending for the subjunctive is the same as, and I'm going to put it in pink, the ending of the present tense verbs of ER regular group. I know what you're thinking. Right. How much of it did you understand? Or did you watch it in a few times, like in 3 parts? I don't know. Now, remember there is a super guide attached with this video absolutely for free. So click on here or in the description below. That's it for me. Au revoir, à bientôt, and bisous bisous. And now I'm going to have a nice cup of tea.